Good evening. He was a pro-Trump lawyer fired from a state job in a pro-Trump state for repeating pro-Trump talking points.
Now, in a case raising fundamental questions about freedom of speech, that lawyer is fighting back in a federal lawsuit against the agency where he worked.
He spoke exclusively with News Channel 5 chief investigative reporter Phil Williams. Phil.
Well, guys, Jerry Morgan worked as an attorney for the state agency that polices Tennessee's lawyers. Not only did that agency fire Morgan back in December for a series of hardline conservative tweets, officials have now notified him that his own law license is under investigation.
If the board were to sanction an attorney simply for expressing himself politically, then the board could go after any attorney in this state for whatever the board felt was objectionable.
Jerry Morgan once argued lawyer discipline cases before the state Supreme Court for the Tennessee Board of Professional Responsibility. But Morgan was fired after a lawyer under investigation accused him of being an extreme anti-Muslim bigot for tweets in support of then candidate Donald Trump.
There was no question that my tweets were all from a conservative political viewpoint. And in my view, the board didn't want the negative publicity that came with that.
Among them, tweets saying Trump was talking about the #1 issue of our time, stopping Muslims. And this one, where's the evidence that Islam is a religion of peace? They've gone to war against every society they've encountered for thousands of years. And this, siding with Obama in a fight involving Muslims, means you're on the wrong side.
When you look back at the tweets, do you understand why some people would find them to be objectionable?
Of course.
I think Islam hates us.
Morgan noted that then candidate Trump,
he won't even use the term radical Islamic terrorism,
was saying much the same thing.
They want to change your religion. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Are you anti-Muslim?
No, not at all. In fact, I have worked with Muslims in Romania that were fleeing their country of Syria, fleeing terrorism. I worked with them, teaching them English, helping them acclimate to Western culture, have no animosity towards Muslims in general at all. My position was dealing with Islamic terrorism.
There were also tweets arguing African Americans had thrived economically under Trump, but Democrats don't want record-high employment among minorities. They need them caught in a slave mentality.
My position there is that the African American community flourished under President Trump's policies, whereas the Democrat Party wanted to keep them in the welfare state.
But Morgan's bosses fired him, saying lawyers who regulate other lawyers have a duty to protect the public without discrimination or bias, adding, your speech has adversely impacted your ability to successfully perform your job duties.
That's completely false. It had never affected my job duties up to that point. In 17 years, I've never been accused of any ethical violation, and there's no one at the board that could tell you any differently. My work for the board was exemplary.
Why do you think he was fired?
I don't like using this term. He was canceled.
Morgan's lawyer, Gary Blackburn, is a longtime Democratic activist.
The fact that I disagree with his views has to be put in the context of the fact that most Tennesseans agreed with them. This state was overwhelmingly carried by Mr. Trump twice. These are his views, basically.
Blackburn's federal lawsuit on behalf of Morgan argues the right to free speech and free thoughts is fundamental to democracy.
His views were so disagreeable to some people that they imagined that it would interfere with his ability to do a job, despite the fact that it had not up to that point. And I think there's an element there of what's often called cancel culture.
Now, the Board of Professional Responsibility has not responded to my request for comment on the lawsuit. Ironically, one of Jerry Morgan's key witnesses could end up being the lawyer who first raised questions about his tweets, since that lawyer only asked that Morgan be disqualified from that one case, never expecting that the board would attempt to silence its own attorney. Vicki?